What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So now that, I've obviously pulled the new units and we're going to go ahead and trial them out in content. And today we're going to be jumping into things with Rayleigh Gaban. This was the first of the two units that I wanted to jump into in regards to the Rumble stuff, because Rayleigh Gaban seem kind of insane in regards to what they're capable of doing in Rumble. So in today's video, this is the team that you're going to be seeing. Now, a couple of the clips in this video have Rayleigh Gaban at level 99. What I went ahead and did is I actually did go ahead and decide to invest into their abilities. So you see here that I do have them at level 120. I did feed them 4 level limit break wanted posters to get their increased statistics. I also went ahead and limit broke expanded them to give them even more stats. And that's kind of massive for the way that this character is kind of designed. So let's break down their abilities and then we can go ahead and jump into a couple of different team examples I'll show you guys in this video. So their Rumble ability focuses on buffing int and striker type characters, giving them HP and defense 6, which is phenomenal. The blow away percent up level 6, take it or leave it, it's not that important. But they also give level 3 special CT increase, like that's phenomenal. They also give Roger Pirate teammates 5 attack, 5 speed, which is essentially just themselves. There aren't going to be too many situations where other Roger Pirates are going to be partnered alongside them. So for the most part, it's essentially a self 5 attack and speed increase. And then furthermore, it says that if you have 6 or more int characters on the team, when this character is knocked out, it's going to launch their Rumble special 1 time. Now, this ability is insane. I do think that the effect of characters launching their Rumble special when they die, I think it's probably the most cancerous mechanic in Pirate Rumble. Like, yeah, characters that can revive are annoying, but it's just annoying in the other aspect where, if like an enemy uses a special and then you end up killing them, they just immediately get a max special charge and use it again, like characters such as this, Oiran Yamato, Galaxy Impact Garb. These characters are extremely frustrating to play against, and even though while you are using them, that effect is very nice, I just think that it's a really cancerous mechanic. I'm not really a big fan of it, but all in all, this character has it, so you got to abuse it to the best of your ability, right? Now, what does their special actually do? It's very good. So it's a 36 CT, which is a bit on the higher end, but for what it does, it's quite good. The fact that it targets all enemies for 1.5 times attack through defense, already very, very solid stuff. And then also says that if they have 40% or less health remaining, then they also target all enemies for 4 times attack damage. And they also give Roger Pirates 5 attack, speed, and defense up for 20 seconds. Again, that's basically only targeting themselves, but either way, still a really powerful mechanic. So the fact that you can get yourself in a situation where they can launch their special, and then eventually when they die, they just immediately launch it again. The thing is as well, is that when they do launch their special, when they're knocked out via their Rumble ability, it will also affect the fact that they're below 40% health. So, you can have this special launch, and then they get knocked out, and then getting it to launch again to do another 1.5 through defense, and also doing the 4 times damage. Like, that's why I do think that investing level limit break wanted posters into this character actually makes a massive difference. Not only just because of the fact that the damage through defense will increase, but also the 4 times attack through, after when they're below 40% HP is also a massive deal. So having this character almost as like a kamikaze kind of way in the front is actually probably the best way to do it, because if they launch their special, that's pretty much good. As long as they launch their special at least once, like you're pretty happy with that. And then eventually if they get knocked out, being able to just launch their special again, and it's going to be the ultra buffed version. Yeah, this character is pretty disgusting. Now, in terms of the team comp, we'll talk more about it in the video, but I do know that there are other options, honestly. Like, 10th Anniversary Luffy, I think, is a good unit, but I know that some people are opting to run different team comps, like Bonnie or Pudding. I think Pudding is a solid option because you can, charge the special of your Rayleigh Gaban faster. I like Waifus, I like S-Hawk, and I really like Blackbeard. 10th Anniversary Luffy is the one that I think is relatively flexible, but do note that for Blackbeard to get the fullest extent of his abilities, you do need 5 powerhouse characters on the team. So I guess you do have to keep that in mind. So without further ado, enough yapping. Let's actually get into some content showing off Rayleigh Gaban in Pirate Rumble. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into the first match today, which is going to be up against the Challenge Difficulty Sakazuki. The first thing I did on stream after I pulled this unit is I built this team together, and we're kind of testing out the unit, just seeing how it kind of went up against some of the Challenge Difficulty ones, because there were actually some of them that I hadn't even beaten. This was my first attempt at taking on the Sakazuki Challenge, and I decided to go ahead and just use this team, and lo and behold, it just straight up worked, which was like really, really good. Now, I will admit, this is not the most difficult of the challenge difficulty boss fights, but still, impressive nonetheless. Now, this is one of the clips where Roger, Rayleigh, and Gaban are at level 99 without the limit break expansion, so they're not going to be doing as much crazy damage as you would expect. But you know, even if you just pull this character at level 99, just chuck him on a team, get him leveled up, get him ready to go, I do think this is going to be a very solid character moving forward, just because, you know, even if they get that chance to launch that special, doing that much damage through defense is such a massive deal. And then, obviously, if they are knocked out, then you get the ultra buffed form of their special. So, of course, they use their special there, and at that point, I kind of realized, like, yeah, this character, they've got some really nice abilities, but, like, yeah, targeting everyone for, like, 4,000 damage, it's like, they really could be doing a lot more. And of course, the thing is if enemies have abilities that, you know, they take reduced damage from int characters, that actually does affect the damage that this character does to those types of enemies. So you do have to keep that in mind as well. And considering that there are a pretty decent amount of Psi enemies on the enemy side of the field, Psi enemies will naturally have damage reduction versus int characters. So probably not the best opportunity to actually showcase this character against Psi units specifically. But I just think that Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban with their special, and the fact that they're pretty easily injectable into int squads, especially if you already have characters like S-Hawk, like, I mean, we all know it, like, S-Hawk is legitimately the most crazy Rumble character that's ever come out. I have no idea what they were thinking when they were designing that character, but the fact that int have access to a character such as that, they've now got Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, which I do think is going to be a new meta mainstay that you're going to have to be very cautious of. And even characters like the waifus here with their recent super evolution throughout the anniversary period is such a massive addition to int teams, because the confusion mechanic is extremely broken in the way that it works, where if an enemy is confused and then they go to launch their special, it resets their cooldown. So, you know, that ability in and of itself is really valuable. 10th anniversary Luffy, I actually do like what he does, but he only really shines specifically against free spirit focused teams. So I guess if you're up against a squad that isn't focusing too much on free spirit, I think Luffy is probably the most replaceable unit on the front line. So after seeing the success that I had against the Akainu challenge, I thought that, you know, let's go ahead and give the strength team a go. I got up against the challenge difficulty Sentomaru. So the strength team is still extremely scary, no matter which way you look at it. The fact that they've got characters like the 8.5 anniversary Luffy, which again is one of those units that you just have to respect that unit, because if that special pops, you are going to hurt. it's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, it is going to hurt. Interestingly though, the fact that they put Kuma on the bench as the final character that you have to take on in this matchup, I think is a bit of a strange choice, but then again, this was a challenge difficulty where they wanted to showcase Sentomaru, and I suppose that does make sense, but realistically speaking, if Kuma was on the front line instead of Sentomaru, then it would be essentially a fully optimal strength team here, which is kind of wild, right? This is going to be a really tricky one if you don't have the right team against it, but luckily for us, we do get things to go our way. We get Luffy there to force out the Sentomaru, which is kind of nice, so we don't have to deal with his special for a little bit of time, and then we're just launching all of our specials before the enemy actually has a chance to use theirs. We did get some good luck with the Blackbeard and special reverse that they provide, as well as the Hancock, Nami, and Robin waifu character with the confusion coming in extremely clutch there. Of course, they've got their own one, but for us, it's not that big of a deal because the confusion landed on some units that had already just used their special, so we don't have to worry about our cooldowns resetting or anything. And you see here, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban got knocked out from the Luffy special ability, so this is their fully activated special here launching, again, just at level 99. Pretty solid damage overall, pretty much wiping the floor with all of the enemies, right? So that's fantastic, and especially if you can partner up other types of abilities like defense reduction or halving defense, halve stats, that's going to make Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban even more potent than what they already are. Okay, so moving on to the next two clips. These two clips I do believe will both have Rayleigh Gaban at level 120 with the Limit Break expansion. So this is now the highest possible damage that I can achieve with this unit. One thing that I did kind of realize, and a couple of people in my Twitch chat kind of mentioned it as well when we were streaming it yesterday, the fact that this team doesn't specifically have a ton of attack value. Like, have a look at the stats that the team's actually running right now. Like, we don't actually have a lot of decent stats across the board. I mean, defense and speed looking okay, HP's looking pretty solid too, but the fact that we don't have much attack value is an interesting one. Mainly, of course, it's the fact that, like, Blackbeard is an interesting unit because he doesn't really buff your team as he more just, like, debuffs the opponent. But I guess that is something to look into, because if you actually end up running more characters on your squad that have just passive effects to just increase attack, that will also make a pretty big difference in how much damage Rayleigh Gaban are going to be outputting. So I guess that is also something to keep note of. I guess characters like Pudding, I do believe, have an ability to buff characters that have the highest attack on your field, which I guess that on top of giving special CT reduction might actually be a pretty valid, like, team comp, I do think. I did see some people in the subreddit Discord mentioning the fact that they were ending up using Legend Bonnie 6+, the Int one, the very first Bonnie Legend in the game, Super Evolution, who's also a really solid unit that can debuff enemies, reverse their specials. Although, I'm not really too sure if I would run Bonnie. I feel like if you run Bonnie, you don't specifically need Hancock, Nami, and Robin, because I feel like they kind of provide the same role on the team, as, you know, Confusion essentially can, like, counters almost reversing specials in a way. And I get it, it's not an exact one-to-one comparison between Hancock, Nami, and Robin and Bonnie, but I feel like they do fulfill similar roles. One thing that Hancock, Nami, and Robin have over Bonnie is the fact that they're actually a damage dealing special, which can definitely make a big difference. And Confusion, of course, with the way that it works, where enemies actually hit themselves, so they can just give you some more damage just naturally, which is kind of neat. But again, Bonnie, I think, is a very fair call too, because I know not everyone would actually have this character super evolved ready to go. So I do think Bonnie is a very fair call that I think is more accessible, that you could potentially build instead of using that. Of course, if you don't have S-Hawk for this team, that is obviously a very difficult character to replace, but you got to do what you got to do. You'd run some Pipe Rumble Rare Recruits instead to get the job done. Moving on now to our final clip of the video, which is going to be against the S-Bear Challenge difficulty. So I kind of mentioned a little earlier in regards to 10th Anniversary Luffy. I feel like he was just kind of like the unit on the team that I wasn't like the biggest fan of, but he can be pretty clutch. Of course, if you're up against characters that do have that free spirit class, then having the ability to force some of those characters out can actually make a pretty big difference. And especially when you get towards the end of a game. Force out towards the end of the game is extremely busted, because, you know, if you force a character out and then you just kill everyone else on the team, then you essentially, force out is almost like a guaranteed knockout on an enemy with the way that it kind of works. So I do like Luffy because of that, and I also just having that extra offense that Luffy can kind of provide. Of course, this video is really focusing in on Rayleigh Gaban and the damage that they're able to output, which is fantastic, and I absolutely love what they do. That in partnership with Mihawk, I don't know if just those two characters alone you could use as your dedicated DPS, and then you could supplement those with the supports of characters such as Blackbeard, potentially Pudding, potentially Bonnie, potentially Hancock, Nami, Robin. And then, yeah, obviously Luffy do be chillin', but at the end of the day, I don't really think Luffy is ultimately required either. But remember what I said also during the introduction here, is that if you end up using Blackbeard, you pretty much want to be running 5 powerhouse characters or more on the team in order to activate his abilities to the fullest, which can help reduce enemy defense, reduce enemy attack, and all that kind of good stuff to allow your Rayleigh Gaban to be more potent. But overall, I do think that this character is going to be a menace to deal with in Rumble. Definitely a unit that I want to try and avoid at all costs if I'm going up against them, because this guy is just disgusting. So let me know your thoughts and opinions about this character down below in the comment section. And of course, I will make a dedicated video for the Rock Fox Pirates in Pirate Rumble at some point as well, because I do feel like they're going to be another really interesting unit to see how they kind of perform. So hopefully you enjoyed this video today, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.